The 16th lesson I've learned from the people of Broadway Church is to tell someone how you see a biblical story come to life in them. 5 or 6 years ago, Reverend Rachel and I decided to try and gamify our work here at Broadway. And one of the ways you could score a point was by telling someone how you see a biblical story come to life in them. Now, I had learned this lesson many years before in the 80s when I was here at Broadway. I just didn't know I'd learned it yet. In 1988, on an Ash Wednesday, I was walking down 29th Street from Broadway, and I passed by a group of men at the corner of 29th and Central. I was walking to our home on Washington Boulevard. And I said hello, and they said hello, and I kept on going past them. And a couple blocks down the street, I heard somebody behind me, and I turned around, and one of the men was hurrying up to catch up with me. And he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you for a minute." And I said, "Okay." And he introduced himself. He said, "My name's George Zoom, but people call me Captain Zoom." What a great name. And he asked if I would come and visit him and talk with him at his house sometime. And he told me he lived about a block away from where we were standing, which was just a half a block from my house. And I said I would do that. He took the pen out of my bib overalls and he grabbed the book out of my hand. And in the back of the book, he wrote my address. He wrote his address so I would know where to come and remember that. So about that time, I heard the men behind us calling out to him, and I turned around and they were coming our direction. They were saying, Captain Zoom." And he said to me, "Do you see them?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "That is the devil." And he had a big smile on his face. And he says, "God keeps calling me, but I keep turning back. I'm going to go to them." And then he paused again and said, "I hope the same thing doesn't happen to me that happened to Lot's wife." Wow. As he turned to leave, he stopped again, turned back to me and said, "One more thing." And I said, "Yes." He said, "I look like Jesus and you don't." And then he took off his baseball cap and he took his hand to his short, tight afro and he rubbed his hair and he leaned into me and he said, "Hair like lamb's wool, baby." And he laughed. We had some great conversations. But the words of Scripture were alive in his life. The stories of Scripture walked with him down city streets. The stories of Scripture stood with him when he was with his friends. The stories of Scripture filled his mouth when he was talking with the young preacher. Our story is the biblical story. The biblical story is our story. Thank you, Broadway.